Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris both said incredibly radical things over the last 24 hours about the United States criminal justice system. So here's Bernie Sanders at a rally talking about the American criminal justice system.
I hope that all of you know that the criminal justice system in this country is completely broken and is racist.
Really? The entire system is racist? Is that where we're going with this? Okay, so it's broken and it's racist. What is his evidence that it's broken and that it's racist? Well, presumably a disproportionate number of people of minority descent are in prison. But we don't arrest people based on their ethnicity. We arrest them based on the crime they committed. So if Bernie Sanders wants to identify the people he wants let out of jail, anytime now, Bernie, anytime you want to point to the people who are wrongly in prison and are innocent, then I'm waiting on it. But if the idea is that the entire system is inherently corrupt and endemically corrupt, you're going to need to prove that to me by pointing out who are the innocent people who are being rounded up on the streets and then thrown in prison. This has become, unfortunately, a talking point among Democrats. This is why people are disenchanted with politics. Politics right now is not about solutions. It's not about helping people. It's about just yelling at the wind. And Democrats right now are yelling at the wind louder than Trump. I objected in 2016 when President Trump yelled at the wind and suggested that job loss in a lot of dying Rust Belt towns was the responsibility of free trade and government policy and all the rest of it. I thought that was economically foolhardy. I didn't think that it was correct. I don't like blaming vague forces in the universe for specific problems that are generally the result of free market forces. So I didn't like it when Trump did that. But on the Democratic side, you know what I really hate? The counterproductive nature of their treatment of law enforcement. So Kamala Harris, who's desperately running for president, she's the most desperate there are three desperate candidates in this race right now. Beto O'Rourke is desperate, Kamala Harris is desperate, and Cory Booker is desperate. Cory Booker is always desperate for attention. Beto O'Rourke is desperate because he thought he was going to be the front runner at this point. And Kamala Harris is desperate because for a brief glimpse of time, she had popped up into that top rank and now she has receded. She did an interview over the last 24 hours with the editor of Salon on police, and listen to her green light this take on police, which is such a hot take. I mean, this is a scorching white hot take. It's insane.
We shouldn't have to acknowledge that trauma because, like, they're paid to be there. We live in these places. Like, police officers have historically not been held accountable because they protect and serve the rich, and then they just harass and take up space in poor communities. I don't see any type of big shift happening with the one term because it's like a cultural thing.
Right.
Okay, so why doesn't she push back there? She's a former prosecutor. She knows the police in California. Why isn't she pushing back? When that person says that the police just harass and take up space in poor communities, the reality is that if you actually wish to improve the lives of people in poor communities, black or white, you need more police presence, not less police presence. Why? Because who's going to invest in a community where the crime rates are high, where your property is not secure? Who's going to invest in a community where there is no tax base? Okay, and the tax base doesn't exist because if you can get your kids out of that community, then you move to the suburbs. Who's going to do that? The single greatest factor that indicates upper income mobility in an area is the safety in that area, protection of property rights, protection of human rights in a particular area. That is what is going to provide the preconditions for growth in a particular area. And yet you have Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris railing against the very forces you need to ensure law and order in poor, low income, and disproportionately minority areas. Okay, the fact is that these high crime areas require more police, but Democrats aren't interested in solving the problem. They're interested in pandering. We have a politics of pandering right now, and it is completely ugly, and it is completely terrible. Facts don't care about your feelings, and it's a fact that The Ben Shapiro Show is the largest conservative podcast in the nation. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on all of our content.